my internet, sometimes the internet doesn't sync up with my beginnings. Anyway, so have you ever had to, I hope this is on, I have too many without sound. Okay, have you ever had to force feed someone who was ill and couldn't feed themselves, someone who did not want to eat because they just wanted to leave the planet? There are so many reasons of why family members or friends have to force feed people. I know in my situation, well, I'm Barbara. It's August 21st, 2026. My mother got lung cancer. She had lung cancer. And in the beginning, we did everything we could to keep her vital, so we force-fed her. Took turns with foods that the hospital made. And eventually, we couldn't do it anymore. So the next step was intravenous, to give her nutrition through the blood stream. But it was another way of force feeding her. And then eventually, we knew she was choosing to leave. And so at that point, even that stopped. Well, they kept electrolytes going the best they could, but it was just getting less and less support to see if she could hold her own, and she couldn't. And so eventually after that, she was on a ventilator. And after that, the lung cancer spread to her brain. So it was just this down, down, down spiral. And the reason I'm bringing up the word force feed, it came to me today to share with you something that I did that I didn't even know I was doing, is you can force feed yourself back to life despite anything that has happened to you. You can force feed yourself back into life. The greatest demise, I'm going to back up for a minute. There is a public figure that is in the news who I've never heard of. And I won't dwell on him in this podcast because I don't know enough. But he did unalive himself. Apparently, he was accused of plagiarism in his writings back into his beginning internship type days all the way forward into some books. And so he was being maligned and accused of plagiarism. He took his life. It was yesterday, I think it was yesterday. And a friend of mine posted it, and I had never heard of this person, but I just could not stop thinking about why. Did he plagiarize people and didn't want to face the consequences? Or did he not? But he just could not handle the maligning of his character and losing his reputation. Whatever the reason is, he took his life. And I thought about how blessed I am and I was when people mocked and humiliated me and totally maligned my character and my spiritual community. If you're following me, my attitude was, I'm going to survive this. I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to tell my story. And then I dropped it. And then day after day, it was just about surviving day to day, all kinds of homelessness, every day was devastating. The only way I got through it is I had to stay in the moment. If I went into the future, I couldn't see a good future. If I went into the past at what they did, it was heartbreaking and it was enraging. So I just had to stay in the present, in the moment, one foot in front of the other, and handle whatever I could the best I could. And I look at that as I force-fed myself back to life. The intention was to destroy me. The intention was to take all my energy, to take all my education, to just take everything that I had worked for. And to their disappointment, not only am I alive, not only did I make it out, I am doing public podcasts telling my story. This is their worst scenario. And I'm not even doing it to punish them. I'm doing it to heal myself. So going back to force feeding yourself, I wrote it down. I must look. You can force feed yourself into a much deeper relationship with yourself when someone tears you apart. You can force yourself into a much deeper relationship with your heart, with spirit, with God. You can force feed yourself back into life. Give yourself back the vitality. Now, I still don't have my vitality. My body, I should say, is very ill, disabled, and is nowhere near what and where I expected to be at this time in my life. So essentially, these people took my legs, took my dream, took my health, in addition to reputation and character and everything I worked for. But I just kept going step by step by step, and I am so grateful. And when I heard that story today, I think, why do some of us choose to move through it and some don't? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know, and I do contemplate. Why do some people unalive themselves and some people just trudge through? It's not a right, it's not a wrong, but the philosopher in me, the contemplator, the investigator, would love to study that sometime and figure out, like, what is it? Like, what can we do to catch someone before they make that decision, before they make that final thought to take action? But I've talked about that in another podcast. But anyway, you can force feed yourself back to life. I'm seeing like a little, I've seen on Instagram these sweet videos of people taking little injured pets. Which is the one? Oh God, I've seen birds. I've seen a lizard. Was it a fish? I'm not sure, but where the human being knew that this was a little injured animal, tiny, and not even spoon feeds. It can't even eat yet. Like a little baby bottle, the kind of little baby bottle that I use to feed my dolls. God, I haven't thought about it in ages. Do you know the little bottles that we little girls used to, pretend feed our little dolls? We put milk in it or liquid and squeeze it. Some of us had dolls where you really could put it in the mouth and it really would come out the other end. God, this is memories. But anyway, they force fed it. Well, they didn't force it, but they fed it very slowly. And at the end of the video, they're back to life. They can walk again. They can fly again. They can move again. And it's all because one loving person stepped forward and thought, I can do this. I can bring this animal, this creation, back to vitality and back to life. So when I say that you can force feed yourself back to life, you would be the loving person that spoon feeds or gives yourself the bottle slowly, as tiny a step as you can, to bring yourself back to life. I am on some applications on Facebook where people are just really torn about a particular thing they're dealing with. And, it is so frustrating to me because it's very obvious these people don't know spirit. They don't have a spiritual path. They don't have tools to nurture themselves back. So every post is about their anxiety, their PTSD, and this is happening, and this is happening, and they're asking people for advice. And it's challenging because, we're not legally in a position to give medical advice. But the biggest lesson I've gotten from that is I'm very careful with using the word victim mentality because I hate that. It's a big word. It's a big buzzword in my spiritual path. It's horrible. If you have anything going on in your life that's challenging and you stand up and share about it, you will actually hear them call you a victim. This is like for over 30 years. And there is a difference between being a victim and being victimized. But I'm seeing these 40, 50, 60-year-old women, 70, who are still aching from the past. And I want to like shake them, and tell them, yes, it's going to take work, but are you willing to do the work? So getting back to force feeding is, in my mother's case, many of you who've had relatives, people in your life die from cancer, it is a treacherous disease. And many people are living from cancer. There's enough technology and there's been enough studies and enough done to save people in a way that my mother couldn't have been saved. There are people today who are living from exactly what my mother had. There are people today living. I just read a story yesterday. My father had emphysema, lung issues. And I do wonder if they misdiagnosed him. I do wonder if he had lung cancer and the doctors really didn't catch it. But they couldn't do anything for him. They shut off one lung. And my father took me to the doctor for his post-surgical appointment. I was 12. And I remember sitting in front of the doctor, had a big desk, and my father's sitting next to me, and I'm just being quiet. And my father looks at me and he says, "This man saved my life." That's what my father said to me. This man saved my life. My father died within 2 weeks. You don't know. You just don't know. With all the surgery and all the hospital visits, and not hospital visits I visited, but him staying in the hospital. And my mother and I, she'd pick me up at school. She'd leave work, pick me up at school. We'd go to the hospital every single day. And it was torment to watch my father shrivel. It was torment to watch my mother shrink. Literally, her body shrunk. She was my size. She was a 10. I'm not that now. But she just shrunk. And I didn't realize how bad it was until I lifted the sheets one day to help the nurses with something. And I was just like in horror. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. I didn't know she had gotten so frail. I could see it up here, but I didn't see the body. And I'm just using that for us, for me, for you, is we can force feed ourselves back to life. And I say force, it's really loving ourselves back to life. The people that we've been around that have harmed us have done all kinds of horrible things to us. It's intentional. I don't buy into this. If they knew better, they would have done better. An adult knows better. We're taught from young to grade school, from television, to do the right thing, to be kind. There's enough information out there for people to choose kindness. So this bullshit about if they knew better, they would have done better. I don't buy this. This is another spiritual bypass for me. If you're in a really horrible place and you're even thinking about anything destroying your life, don't. Force feed yourself back to life. Defy your enemies. Defy them. D-E-F-Y. Don't give them that pleasure that they have the power to destroy you. Maybe temporarily you go down, but don't let them win, because that is the devil. That is the devil. God only gives victories. If you can harness God and you make that your priority and you say, I want to win. I want to get out of this. I want to tell my story. I want to tell my story. so I can share with other people, God, how you saved me. How many people do you see on television at 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning? I used to love to watch those shows where people are testifying about their stories of how God saved them. That's a joke. I mean, I don't know. Some of those television shows might be putting it on, but you know how many of us are telling you that God is real and he has changed our lives and brought us back from the dead. And what I'm getting from me, I don't know what's going on with other people. I'm being shown very clearly they are not getting away with this. They are not getting away with this. And my hands are clean. I am not doing anything other than telling my story. But God has said enough. God has told me, he's told them to stop. They didn't stop. And the army got bigger and bigger and bigger. They embraced more and more people to come against me. You know, I didn't even know what was happening. I didn't know when I said hello to someone with a big smile that I've known for 30 years and they look at me like, why are you talking to me? I didn't know what was going on. I knew something was going on. That is how vicious gossip is. That is how vicious the ringleader is when he harnesses what's called flying monkeys, people to do his dirty work against people like me. So force feed yourself. You are not meant to die. My mother, well, she was kind of young. She was 63. But it was her choice to leave at that time. She was tired. She was a single mother. She was a widow. She was a blue-collar worker. I mean, I appreciate her more now than I did as a teen. As a teenager, I just fought her every which way because I felt the control and I felt the limitation she had on me. But it was her projection of her unhappiness. But I didn't understand that. All I knew is, why are you treating me like this? And had a lot of healing work to do to get rid of that projection and release it from myself. And so I know a lot about force feeding myself back to life after trauma and trauma and trauma. I had to keep feeding myself over and over. And now that I look back, I realize it was perfect. You know, God was just making me love myself more and more and more, deeper and deeper and deeper, in a way that I could stand before you and say, I am free. I am free of the matrix. I am free of fear of dying. Like, I know God is real. I know there's no death. I know there's no death. So wherever I'm going, and I know it's not just into a box, I know my body is going to go, well, it's not going to be in a box. I'm burning my body. I'm putting it in a Starbucks Frappuccino. I've told my friend, put my ashes in a Starbucks Frappuccino and just toss me into the ocean, because I will have left the body and I will be with spirit for the next step, my graduation to the next step. Now, I don't know what that is, and maybe some people do. I won't claim what I don't know, but I have the faith that I am going to be moving on to something bigger, better, and freer, and less matrix-like, out of the control. So wherever you are, no matter what the challenge is, tiny, medium, big, you can force feed yourself back to life. Picture a little baby bottle. Actually, I need to buy one. A little baby bottle that we little girls used to feed our dolls. I gotta buy one of those. I have to buy one of those little baby bottles, and just see yourself force feeding yourself back to life. And take your time and be patient and be gentle and be kind, because you were just traumatized with and by some really evil people who are sick. My community, my church community, is backed up by extremely sick people who are such phonies. that many of us, including me, bought it. My purpose of these podcasts has been to tell you what's happened to me. And then when I hate to say the word revenge, but because God says leave revenge to him. But then when they fall, I'm going to come back to you on the podcast and I'm going to show you that God told me the truth. And I'm going to prove to you on a deeper level that God is real. And not only is he real, but if you are in his camp, if you're in his ship, if you're in his spaceship, he will take care of you and he will show you who your enemies are in case you're kind of dumb like me and don't want to see people's poor behaviors and negative behaviors. You know, I don't want to see that. I can't even imagine. I couldn't imagine that they could pull off what they've pulled off. And relentlessly, not just once, not just twice, but years until it hit a big event, which now is totally undeniable. I mean, it's public. I have the records. I have the pictures. I have the videos. There's just no stopping me. But getting back to the force feed is force feed yourself back to life. I'm using the word force feed to snap you out of any depression you're in, any funk that you're in, anything that puts you in harm or danger. I'm saying force yourself to get up, force yourself to get out of bed, force yourself to go out, force yourself to eat, force yourself to drink water. But at the same time that I say force, I'm really meaning it in a loving effort, in a loving, gentle, sweet energy. It is not easy when you're hurting. I'll just own it. It was not easy for me to be gentle and soft and sweet to myself when I was in a homeless situation. I was in agony. I did beat myself up. How did I get into this? Why did I trust these people? What did I do wrong? What is wrong with me? Where did I go wrong? Really was the whole thing. And it was never about me. It was never about me. It's whatever's happening to you. It is not about you. It is their problem. It is their psychosis. It is their need to be in control of you, to dominate you, to steal from you, your property, your intellectual property, your creativity, your energy. Please, please force feed yourself back to life. And then you get to tell your story to the entire world like I'm going to do. And you get to prove that God saved you. And you get to testify that it wasn't you that did it. It was you. But it was God's energy and God's direction that saved you. It is God's energy. It is God's impulse into me. Keep talking, Barbara. Keep talking. Keep healing yourself. Keep exercising. Keep eating right. Keep changing home bases that are toxic. Keep letting go of people that are toxic. Keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. So the theme, force feed yourself back to vitality, despite what anyone has done to you. And if you can't do it for yourself, do it to be a testimony that God is real, because people on this planet need to know that God is just waiting. And again, I don't say God, a man on a throne, that the universe creation is waiting for us to get in alignment with it, for us to get in alignment with the life force that is in us, that has been depleted because of these people. And we need to force feed ourselves back into receiving the life force. Let me say that again. We need to force feed ourselves into the receptive mode of receiving the life force back into us. Because I know I'm exhausted. I am drained. I am holding on by threads. It may not seem like that to you because this podcast is so exciting to me that it is bringing me back to life. If you look at my very first podcast, I did lose my first 10. But if you look at the first one, oh my God, it's taking everything not to delete it. If you look at me, I'm a mess. And I mean, I have pictures worse than that. But as I've been doing these podcasts and as I look forward to them and as I write my notes and the lessons come to me during the day, I just love it. And the other thing for me is, I come from a energy of people that have done everything they possibly could to silence me, to not let me express myself, to not let me give my point of view. I mean, it was permitted to everybody else, but when I spoke, it's like I was silenced and shut down. And I look back now, that's something here. I look back now and I am realizing that I was silenced by people who knew that whenever I spoke, it was potent. And they were jealous. And I'm talking about presidents of universities. I'm talking about spiritual teachers. I've got more than one church. I'm just starting with the biggie. I've got 4 more churches behind me that were just as vicious. There seems to be something about when I speak, even if it's just 2 or 3 words, they needed to silence me. And when someone did let me speak, or someone was confident in themselves and they were self-assured and self-secure, and I was part of the group and I was welcomed, when I said something, it was like, oh yeah, that is a great idea. Let's do that. But the people who wanted me to stay small because I was a threat to them, they didn't want me to speak at all. I'm in a group right now that I just sit there silently on Zoom. I think they think that I was intimidated by their nastiness and disrespect. No, I'm just sitting. I'm just observing. I'm just watching the patterns play out because it gives me ammunition. Not even ammunition. It gives me wisdom of how to do it better when I have my thing going. So I'm learning from them the power of their disrespect for a few of us, the power of their discrimination, the power of their need to mock people in the group. I'm just watching and listening. They think that I've backed off out of, weakness, feeling shame. I'm unshameable. I'm unstoppable. I am unhumiliatable. Is that a word? When people push you over the edge, they're doing you a favor. They have no idea. The harm that they wish upon you through their actions becomes like a bomb. You become like a bomb, a walking bomb. And eventually people know now to stay away from me. That people know. People are afraid of me right now. I find it funny, actually, because why are they afraid? Because they know I'm going to pull off their mask. I'm not going to do it deliberately. You can pull off someone's mask just by standing in front of them in your God energy. I watched my spiritual teacher evict me from a property of theirs. He didn't have the information. He wasn't interested in getting the information. And we had a little conversation, and I won't go into it now, but the bottom line is I was so present and centered. I had meditated for 2 hours before we came face to face. And I was calm. I was poised. I look back at it. It was such a lesson. Let me share this lesson with you guys. If you are poised and calm and neutral and someone is standing in front of you who is lying, who is fake, who is phony, and has an agenda, which the spiritual teacher did, his lips were quivering. I was this close to him. I was face to face with him, looked up a little, he was a little taller than me, and he asked me to do something, and in the process of asking me, his lips were quivering. When someone quivers, they are scared. They know that what they're doing is wrong. They know they're lying, but more than anything, it's happening because of your presence. When you hold in the truth, when you hold in the presence of God, and the person in front of you is lying and fake and phony, they will squirm, they will quiver, they will tremble. And in that, they get scared because they think you're doing something to them. But you're not doing anything. You're just standing there in your God presence, and their mask is like they can't handle the fact that they know you can see right through them. And so then people become afraid of you. And I'm fine with that now, because what that tells me is if someone is afraid of me, then they're fake and phony. I don't want them in my life. The people that love me and care about me, there's nothing I could possibly do to scare them. There's nothing that they would fear in me because I am in my loving and my kindness and my sweetness. So I'm no threat to them. And the other thing is I couldn't possibly put fear into someone who already is fearless. People who are authentic. I'm not saying they don't have fears, but on some level, someone who's authentic is fearless. They have nothing to fear. They're just being real. They're being present in the moment. They're being honest. They're being in their integrity. So what's to fear? Like, what is to fear when you're authentic? Nothing. What can anyone do to you if you're being authentic? They're going to argue with you? You know, what, I'm going off, guys. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. If someone fears you, and if someone is in fear of you and you know you're not doing anything to them but being present and authentic and real, it's them who has the problem. It's them that are lying. It's they or them that are trying to control the situation. It's they or them that is not in alignment with the truth. And you will be an instrument that triggers them, annoys them, and essentially puts the fear of God in them, and that's not God's purpose. So if someone is uncomfortable with you, or you hear that, quote, they're afraid of you, look at that as good news. It's like, yeah, if they're afraid of me, they're lying, because I know that I'm being real, and I don't want liars in my life. So look at that as protection. If you hear any gossip that people are afraid of you, that is good news. It's protection. They will not come near you. It's built-in protection. It's called God's favor. He is letting you know, oh, no. What is the word? Not on my watch. That is my new kind of, I see it a lot on podcasts about our president, like not on my watch. I love that. Not on my watch do you get to abuse me, mock me, humiliate me, disrespect me, spread all kinds of lies about me. Not on my watch. But it took 15 years for me to undo the damage. I should say it was 15 years of damage. I'm just now undoing the damage. I'm just now starting to undo the damage. But the topic was force feed. Force feed yourself back to life. Picture that little baby bottle. I'm going to buy a little baby bottle. I have to get the little baby bottle for me because I could use more gentleness with myself. I could use more patience with myself. I am very disturbed at the waste of time, the things I could have done, the things I could have created, the things I could have accomplished, the money I could have made, the ease I could have created in my life. I lost so much time, and it's really hard not to beat myself up about that. And it's not so much beating myself up to blame myself. It's just that, the beat up is there on some level. The beat up is there. So basically another theme is, not on your watch does anybody get to disrespect you. Not on your watch. I have a good story for you. Maya Angelou, I saw something she said today. I had no idea. I did not know this, and this is another reel. Maya Angelou was raped at 7.5 years old. I just heard the story today. And they pressed charges. The guy went to jail. I don't know if he went to jail, but whatever happened, they knew it was him. They found him, and he was identified. And I don't know if he was released from jail or just that night I'm not sure. I don't remember. But the day he was released, he killed himself that night. Maya Angelou, and I knew this, but I didn't know why. How many years was it? 5 years? She was so sure that because she named her rapist, and then he killed himself, she was convinced that by naming his name, she killed him. Maya Angelou. She was sure that by naming him as her rapist, that it was her word that killed him. She didn't speak for 5 years. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Not a word, she says. But what I didn't know in this new podcast, I saw a new video of her, is that during that time, she delved into and memorized every book in the Black libraries, books in the white libraries, all of Shakespeare's work, all of Edgar Allan Poe's work. I forget who else. She had them memorized. So she was looking at it as a blessing. I got goosebumps. She looked at it as a total blessing that she got to delve into all this literature. And those of you who've heard her speak, you know how eloquent she is, how she can communicate a message, how she speaks with this incredible cadence that you're riveted on her. Would she have had that had she not had those 5 years of silence? So her point was that God takes what others mean for evil, for what others mean for harm. God can flip the table and turn it into a blessing. And he's done it with me. Had I not gone through this experience, I would not have been doing this podcast. This was no way in my realm of desires even. I wanted to be singing. I wanted to have a little business. I wanted to travel. This was not even a glimmer in my eye. But as a result, not only am I getting to tell my story, I'm getting to be seen, I'm getting to be heard. Everything that I was afraid of because of my upbringing and my brainwashing, that I had to be seen and not heard and not even seen. And then I get a church community who does everything they can, not just the church, but the little satellites also. You know, the way you know a cult, and I've learned this, is, so let's say there's a church, and then there's these little other businesses they have. I call them like little satellites. When something happens in one, it is immediately communicated to all the others. That is a cult. And then everybody gangs against you. People have been thrown out of a particular university because of gossip like that. Someone who tried to help me get my apartment on their property habitable got fired from their job at this university. And I warned her and I warned her boyfriend. They wanted to help me get my apartment livable and get me into another place. And I told them straight out, I said, I really want your help. They came out of the blue. It was a blessing. I said, but if you help me, your girlfriend, the woman, is going to get fired from this university. I know how they work. Anybody who disagrees with them gets kicked out. What kind of place kicks out people who disagree with them? I mean, that's another podcast. That's a cult. That's a controlling cult. She got fired, just like I said they would. I felt so bad, but you know what? She was so happy because she wanted out anyway. She saw they were a cult. She saw how the president and his wife ran the place, hypocritical, just like the entire community. So, you know, poison, poison, poison. It doesn't stay in one place. When there's one poison person, it oozes its way like tentacles into the rest of the authorities, into the rest of the little satellites. So basically, a group, an organization is as weak as its weakest link. And in my church community, the weakest link is the president, who continues to hurt and harm people. And I'm going off topic here. He was enabled by the spiritual teacher, enabled by the other presidents, enabled by all the top inner circle mucky mucks. He was enabled by congregants. He was enabled to do that for 37 years. And because he was enabled, I lost 15 years of my life because no one stopped him. No one confronted him. I would not be here talking to you with some kind of big testimony and a big, big story to prove to you that God is real. Had someone nipped it in the bud and said to him, enough, you're out of here. Why was everybody enabling him? Why was it permitted for him to disrespect congregant upon congregant upon congregant? Why? Why? Because he had what it took from his DNA onward to control people. And people were enabling him to control people, to keep congregants in their little space. I'm going on to a whole